Black Panther officially premieres tomorrow night, and this one is far from your average superhero movie. This movie features Marvel's first ever black superhero portrayed on the big screen, having first entered into comics universe more than 50 years ago. Featuring a majority black cast, the film is set in an African nation assumed by everyone else to be a third world country, but which is actually the most technologically advanced in the world, and which just got a new ruler whose alter ego is the Black Panther.
Let's go.
We are home. My son, it is your time.
Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The movie is being celebrated by critics and audiences alike, and not just for its groundbreaking racial elements, but for its portrayal of women as well.
I think what's really exciting is that the women portrayed in this movie are, right from Shuri with her brilliance, you know, and to Okoye being a general, and to Nakia being this brilliant spy. You know, we're showing the potential of women to find their own path and the ability to get to the fullness of their potential.
Already, Black Panther is on track to break box office records, and there seems to be plenty of reasons why. Joining me to discuss are WGBH's arts editor, Bowen. Jared, it's good to see you. Brandon Matthews, co-founder of KillerBoombox.com, which describes itself as a multi-platform media company dedicated to documenting black music, lifestyle, and culture with integrity. Brandon, it's good to meet you. Thanks. Nice hat, by the way. People can't read it. It says Black Panther, and I should say, why is this such a big deal? It can't just be that the first Marvel comic black superheroes on a screen. There's obviously much more going on there. What is it?
I mean, it's a great storyline, but I mean, there's a sense of extreme pride that comes with this movie. It's
what do you mean?
The first time that a lot of people of color have seen themselves portrayed in this manner, with this many people of color in a movie. The majority of times that you see us, you know, this frequent in the movie, it's slavery-based or gang-related or things like that. This is something that any kid of any color, any nationality can see and get a sense of seeing, you know, of black culture and seeing it in a positive manner. And it's just really, really incredible.
Are you surprised by the expectation level? You're a little young for this, but this is sort of analogous, some people have written, to what expectations were before Roots came on ABC in 1977, where 50 million plus people saw the finale. Is there that kind of buzz about this thing?
It's something that's hit a lot of generations. You know, there are people who aren't even connected to comic book culture that just really love the idea of being able to take their grandkid or a younger member of their family to see something that represents them. You know, like, it's just really, really important for people to be able to have that representation on a scale this large.
Okay, Mr. Arts Editor, as a movie, how good is this?
I'm so relieved, because I was so happy about the build-up, and I didn't want to be disappointed in seeing it, and I'm not. It's really a wonderfully crafted movie. Ryan Coogler, who did Fruitvale Station and Creed before this, he has created this layered, textured story that you will leave, and for the geopolitical, socio-political elements to it, you'll leave wanting to have a great discussion with whomever you go with.
You know, when you mention Ryan Coogler, I mean, I've seen both those movies. I haven't seen this one yet. I wouldn't say that man who made one of the most painful movies, Fruitvale Station, I think, ever made, about a young black guy, 22 years old, I think, in Oakland, shot and killed by a transit cop, face down, unarmed, handcuffed on a subway station. Just one of the most painful ever. And Creed, did you see this in that man?
Absolutely, because I think he brings that humanity to this piece. I mean, these are people of this nation where they know that they're being looked at by the rest of the world as a backwater, and they're not, and they're so strong, and you have all of this African culture coming through that just flows through their blood. It's palpable, and as I said, it's a very layered, fascinating story. You
know, Brandon, a minute ago you mentioned a generational thing. I hope it's okay to say you took a 12-year-old kid to this thing, too. What was it like for her, for this 12-year-old?
She enjoyed a couple of different elements. One, it was the first time she saw a representation of herself on the screen, but it was also even seeing that many women, like, so powerful in that. Like, there were fight scenes where, there was a character, Nakia, and then there's the general, where they literally dominated those fight scenes. And there was a grin on her face the entire time, just being able to see something so powerful that she felt like, she could do that too,
Wakanda, is that how you say the name of the country? Obviously, as I said in the intro, technologically advanced, but on the issue that Brandon's mentioned, also so advanced in terms of gender equality. Does that come through as a big part of this thing, as big as Brandon said?
Oh, absolutely. And I had no idea. As always, when I go into films or anything, I try not to read anything, so I can be wide open. The Black Panther's warriors here, they aren't men at all. I mean, his advisors, the people who are flanking him, are women, and they're so strong. I love one of the lines of them, guns are so retro. That's not exactly what she says, but guns are in the past. As she picks up her spear and launches it, I mean, they're fierce.
You're almost levitating. Do you know that? I mean, I know how you react to movies, but you were almost like out of your seat kind of thing.
I really think it's a superhero movie unlike any that we've ever seen before, and it's probably one of the best ever made because it has eschewed all of the tropes that have made me really dislike superhero and blockbuster movies at this point.
And by the way, blockbusters, from what superhero movies usually come out in the summer. They do not come out in February. So obviously the movie makers decided this one is going to be dramatically different from that which came before.
Right, because this is when they usually dump all the junk.
What's the deal with the music? Kendrick Lamar, I assume everybody knows, is responsible for a lot of this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Kendrick and his label, TDE, they basically did the entire soundtrack, and it's various artists from that label and people that are signed to them, and it's good. It's the first time in many years that people have been excited about a movie soundtrack. The movie
is that really the case?
Yeah, the movie soundtracks, especially for black films, were major. They were a major component in the '90s, where there was a lot of movies, that you wanted to see the movie, but you wanted to hear that music. This is the first time in a long time people really wanted the music from the movie.
We have a little clip, I think, of Gil Scott-Heron. Do we not? The revolution will not be televised. We have a little piece of that from the trailer right here.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. The revolution will be live.
I hear Brandon talk about he can see people like himself. His 12-year-old kid can see someone like herself. Is this going to be a big crossover movie, too? Or is it just going to be celebrated I was going to say bigly. I wonder where I got that phrase from. By African Americans in this country. Is there a huge crossover?
Well, it'll certainly be celebrated. It should be. I mean, it's a great movie, regardless of who's in the movie, who's making the movie. It's fantastic. So I'm assuming that once word of mouth spreads, like any movie, people are going to be flocking.
Do you believe that too?
I think it'll definitely cross over. I think that it's an opportunity to see more culture, but it's also, especially if you're a comic book fan, and a lot of people are, I think that they're going to overlook just the racial portion of it and just understand that this story, it doesn't even need the rest of the Marvel Universe. It literally carries itself, and it's just a really well-done movie.
Do you appreciate the irony, both you guys? I mean, I didn't know this until today, that Stan Lee, who I had obviously heard of, the genius of comics, and this guy, Jack Kirby, two Jewish white guys in 1966, created this because they thought it was time that there'd be an African-American superhero. It's sort of an incredible irony after the...
And here, all these decades later, I just hope the studios pay attention. I mean, we were talking before we came on that I've seen a number of women's films, starting with the First Wives Club years ago, where the studio thinks, oh, that was an aberration, that women would go to the movies to see themselves, and then you wait for women's stories again for a long time. I hope that's not the case here, and I know that you're optimistic, and the studios are finally recognizing that there's an audience.
How many days in a row are you going to wear that hat?
I'll probably have it on for the next month or so. I want to make sure everybody that sees me sees this hat and knows that this movie is something that should be respected. And it doesn't matter where you come from, what your color is. Like, it's just a really good movie, and it deserves to be supported.
I should say, Rasan and Renee, when they left at the end of the first segment, both said they had their tickets for Friday. So people are ready for action. It's great to see you, Jared. Thanks so much. Pleasure to meet you, Brandon.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate it.